It's too bad to see a town like Whipple Hollow and True Blue disappear, and that's actually what did happen. And my memory tells me that it was such a gorgeous, beautiful place to live. People were happy, they had gardens, they had horses that they rode, the kids built their own sleds, the whole community helped. So it was a different way of life. People had simple things and they were very, very happy with it. And as young boys, we made our own toys, wagons, whatever, sleds. We made our own sleds we used to call a toboggan. And slide down the hill in Whipple Hollow from the top of the hill all the way down to the schoolhouse, which the foundation is there. That's about the only thing that's left. All the buildings are gone. And it's kind of sad. It's too bad that the marble went out. And when it did, the people went with it.
Whipple Hollow is located in the northwestern corner of the original town of Rutland. In 1773, Nehemiah Whipple came to the area, purchased land, and by 1774 had settled there. Very shortly after, his father Benjamin came to join him, and sometime after that, his two brothers also came to the area. There are many Whipples in the area, and obviously Whipple Hollow gets its name from the many Whipples who were living there. There are other settlers who lived there also. The hollow itself is a deep valley between mountains on both the east and west side. The hollow runs north and south up the valley. The hollow itself, near the southern end, is a rather swampy area. And it's an area that gives some impressions of the surreal. The mists and the shadows at night can be quite intriguing.
I did plumbing and heating most of my lifetime, and I had a 24-hour oil burner service. I would go out all hours of the night. Coming back from such a call, I came north through West Rutland. I came out of Chippenhook, through West Rutland, going north on the Whipple Hollow Road, and I saw this iridescent, beautiful light. And as I approached this light, it turned out to be a beautiful lady with a gown and a veil on her head. So I followed her for quite some time, slowed way down, and followed her and watched her beautiful face. And it was the most amazing thing that I can remember, even at my age, at 83, was how beautiful and distinctive her face looked. So as I followed her with the window open, I said to her, "What are you doing out here on this lonely road at midnight?" She didn't answer me, so I said to her, "Can I help you in any way?" Nothing happened. She kept right on walking, and I kept following her. Then I finally drove about 10 or 15 feet ahead of her and opened the door, hoping she would come and talk to me. But then nothing happened, so I leaned way over and looked out on the passenger side of my vehicle, and there was nobody there. I sat there for quite some time thinking this over and said, this has got to be a human being. But I realized that it wasn't, and I'm positively sure that it was a ghost.
When I crawled down under the bridge, I got an overwhelming sense of smoke and fire, and I'm sure that's paranormal because there's nothing there. There's nothing there to catch on fire. It's all concrete and stone and steel. Yeah, I'm a retired researcher for the U.S. Army, a physicist. And I became interested in dowsing when I took my daughter to college, and they had entertainment for the parents, and it was a dowser. And as soon as he gave me the dowsing rod and put it in my hands, I found out I had the ability. Then I got interested in ghosts as a metaphysical phenomena that hasn't been seriously studied by scientists, and so I started researching the phenomena. I found that the dowsing, I can find ghosts in the buildings. Detecting minerals or water, it's just a static response, but ghosts, it's a vibration. Actually, the dowsing rod beats just like a heartbeat, and the ghosts we find move around the room, and so you can track them around the room. Sometimes move slowly, sometimes they move quickly. And other personality traits of the ghost can be detected by the dowsing rod, whether they're shy or aggressive, that sort of thing. The train wreck that took place in Hartford, Vermont, it happened on February 5th, 1887 at 2:10 in the morning. When the train got to the bridge, which was an upside-down covered bridge in those days, it hit a cracked rail, and the last car jumped the tracks and pulled the other cars, and they all fell down over the bridge onto the ice. The cars caught fire because in those days they were heated with coal stoves and lighted with kerosene lamps. There's 31 people killed and dozens injured. They were taken across the river to a bar, and then later on at daybreak the wounded were taken down the White River to an old hotel that's no longer there. It was quite a tragic scene. There seemed later on, we start getting persistent rumors of ghosts. There's a persistent story about a Joe McGrett, who was a little boy who was traveling with his father, and his father was pinned in the wreckage, and so he couldn't help save his father, and he had to watch his father die. There's been a poem written about him, and he's usually the ghost that's seen up there. At least they see a ghost of a young boy dressed in the 1880s clothing. He's usually appears about 4 feet off the water, which makes sense. That's where the ice was in the wintertime. This happened in the winter in February. And he's dressed in the old-fashioned clothing. A lot of people swim up there, so you're used to seeing people with bathing suits, but This is a rather unusual, and people usually drive by and don't realize until after they've driven by that they've seen something strange. There's definitely energy there. It's a phenomenon that's worldwide. It's just thousands, tens of thousands of cases of reliable, honest, well-educated people, many of them with advanced degrees, who have had experiences with what we call ghosts.
We can find no written evidence that anybody by the name of Emily ever existed in Stowe at around that time. There's no birth certificates, no death notices, no burial certificates. The only possible proof we have is if you go into the cemetery in the village, right behind the memorial building, the one we call the Old Yard Cemetery. The very first stone you see as you step in on the right-hand side is dedicated to our little Emmeline, and we like to think that that's our Emily. Legend has it that a young girl by the name of Emily, on or about the time of her wedding, was killed in this bridge. Some people say that she was killed when the rig she was riding in overturned as it was coming into the bridge, and she was thrown free and died there. Others say that she was jilted by her boyfriend as they were due to meet and elope from the bridge as a central location for meeting. And he failed to show up, and so she committed suicide there in the bridge. Some people say by hanging, which we find very hard to believe because no young lady would have carried lengths of rope with her if she had been due to elope with her boyfriend. Others say that she jumped from the bridge to her death. There have been several sightings of Emily's spirit here in the bridge. Many, many more than I can possibly go on to here, but things like flashing lights, like a strobe light going off, but not being created by a flashlight or a strobe light, and it didn't light up the whole inside of the bridge. It lit up just a little tiny spot on the wall, about the size of a silver dollar. Voices when you know there's no one else around, breezes on perfectly still days. I've heard reports of people's hats being blown off when they walk through the bridge and there was no breeze. Cold spots. If you go into the bridge and stand in a couple certain spots, you'll feel just a draft of cold air, or you feel like you're stepping into a refrigerator. I've had several sightings where I've seen little balls of light that look almost like a person's face. Many photographs that have been taken of the bridge will have blurry spots in them. We've had wedding photographs where the bride and groom are blurred, other photographs that people didn't even know what the story of the bridge was. They had just happened onto it in a trip, and they took some pictures of the bridge, and when they finished and got them developed, there was a blurred image standing in one side of the bridge. One family from Canada that has written to me had been here to Stowe visiting and taken some photos of the bridge, and as they were showing them to their neighbors at home who had an autistic son, and he was watching them with them, and when the picture of the bridge came up on the screen, he pointed to the bridge and said, "Woman, die," and just absolutely took back everybody that was listening, because he very seldom spoke and he did not know the story. But for him to look at this bridge and see this in a slide, it just sent chills up and down their spines, and she said they just could not believe that this actually happened. Another problem that has cropped up there at the bridge that we attribute to Emily is the electrical equipment that often doesn't work in the bridge, from tape recorders that will record up to the edge of the bridge, but the minute you step in, all they pick up is static. Cameras not being able, video cameras especially, not working in the camera, in the bridge as such. I was doing a show up there one time, a documentary, and we were mic'd, and as we walked into the bridge, everything was working fine. The equipment all said that it was still picking up our voices, but when they played the tape back later that day, they found out that none of the voices came out once we were in the bridge until we stepped out of the other side. It's many, many electrical items just do not work. We had generator problems one night, light problems up there, the same show. I went over to a section of the bridge away from everybody, and I just said, "Emily, now we're only here to do this work, and we're going to be going as soon as it's over. It's going to be on national television and a little bit of this and that." All of a sudden the generator started, the cameras worked, the lights worked, everything was fine. I quite often go up to the bridge, and if I have done an interview there or I felt we have disturbed Emily, I will take some flowers or a little piece of candy or a shiny coin or something, usually a penny or something, and I'll just place it up into the rafters around the top of the bridge. Never in the same place, over and over again. It's usually a different spot each time. And every time I go back to check on it, sometimes 3 days later, sometimes a couple weeks later, Emily has picked it up and taken it. Most always, everything has been taken. The flowers no longer there and dead. The coin is missing. And I don't think there's anybody in the neighborhood or anybody around that's going to climb up and look for a penny tucked up in the rafters of this bridge. Many people have said that their cars, when they were driving through the bridge, were scratched. People have said they've heard of cows and horses that went through the bridge that got scratched or marked in some way or another. I have seen no proof of this myself. If someone had been through that bridge and something strange had scratched that car, it would be the showplace of this county. I mean, everybody would be to see it, and I have not heard of any of it being proved. Emily is not at all violent. She's one of the most benign spirits that could be. She shows up as a flashing light, as a breeze, as a cold spot. I mean, how violent can a breeze be if it's just a breeze? If it's a hurricane, that's a different story, but she's never been very anything but gentle.
It's hard to explain some of the things that we've seen and heard over the past few years. Some people suggest that maybe the things that we hear are the house settling. But how much does a house really settle after 150 years?
When we bought the inn 4 years ago, we didn't know anything about it. Shortly after we moved in, our son started experiencing some strange happenings. So we decided to talk to people who owned the inn before us. And one of the couples that did own the inn before us did have some strange happenings as well. She had brought in someone to go through the house and to see if maybe they felt the presence, and they did. The presence they felt was a woman, and the thought was that she had hung herself in one of the rooms here. I feel that there is a woman here. I also feel that there may be 1 or 2 children along with her. Just from things that I've had, experiences I've had, balls bouncing and little feet running, and just things that sounds typical of a child.
I was walking down the stairs and it felt like someone was following me, but when I turned around I couldn't see anyone. And I walked down the stairs and through the house, and it felt like someone was following me, but no matter what I looked, I turned around and nobody was there. The only other experience I had with the ghost was one night when I was sitting in the kitchen. I heard, sounded like someone was walking up the stairs, and then I heard a little girl ask for her mom.
I really feel that whatever presence is here is happy that we're here. I think I know the house was in turmoil for many years prior to us arriving, and I think they're just happy that there's a family here and that we're enjoying the house. I know that I've heard children or a little girl on several occasions call for Mom, and I've had an adult female voice whisper in my ear my name, which was very distinct. Recently, we had very good friends of ours stay in one of our rooms, and after taking a shower and all the steam was in the bathroom, they came out and looked at the mirror, and on that mirror it said, "God bless," in an adult's handwriting.
It was early May, and we were taking a trip to Bermuda. We asked my sister to in-sit for us. She stayed in our apartment, which is adjacent to the dining room. She woke up one morning, and she came out. And the chair, which had been facing the table, was now turned directly 180 degrees. And was now facing the apartment, as if to look at her as she was sitting in the apartment.
Most of the things that happened in the beginning happened to our son. He experienced a lot of noises and seeing things that none of us were experiencing. We really weren't sure what was happening. We had a roll of film that we had developed. And in that roll of film, he was outside, and around him looked like a presence. And when you look at it, and anybody that does look at it, it looks like a woman on a horse and another woman standing next to the horse, and they're talking. And they're right behind my son. No other picture in that roll of film had anything like that. We brought it to a photographer to have him look at it, and he couldn't explain what that presence was.
Well, I was actually the first person in my family to raise the suspicion of a haunting in our house. And I was laying down on a couch one afternoon and thought I heard a little girl singing a lullaby when there was no one else in my house. And things like this continued to happen. Weird feelings I'd get in my house, but one night topped it all off. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I was walking downstairs from my room into the kitchen to check my email. About 15 feet in front of me, right next to the window, this little girl lit in blue from the streetlight was staring right at me. Her shoulders shrugged, and I got chills up my spine, and not 2 seconds later I was out the door, running the opposite direction.
I don't think I'm ever going to really get used to it, just the fact that there may be somebody else living in the house that I don't know about.
We all feel very comfortable here in the house. And whatever is here, we don't want it to leave.
There's definitely always been a strong feeling in the house. At first, I got a negative feeling from the spirit, and I would stay away from home as much as possible, but the more time I spent there and the more experiences I had, I realized that it was more living with us rather than against us.
I feel real comfortable here. I don't feel threatened in any way. I can go all through the house and have no problems at all. If there is a presence here, I don't want her to go.
spirits are lingering, trapped, held at the scene by their own will. They are repeating their mistakes, wandering, searching, stuck, waiting for something that will never come. These spirits will always linger.